Welcome to the Business Babble. Today we have Linda Nelson from Dains, also known as the former Condies. Today what we want to discuss is when you start your business, whether it be sole trader, partnership, limited liability, we want to go and explain all of that information to you guys, and hopefully we give you some helpful tips. So if you're liking this podcast, please like, share and subscribe. Thanks guys.
Very good, Johnny.
That was amazing, though.
Did you hear
Very
that?
good. 15
That's-
takes.
BBC.
Took us to get
Do you know
there.
that one that I did outside of We Do Scotland? It must have been about 13 takes. Because I was feeling crap in the morning, just ill with the cold.
Why are you
and
just
stuff.
ill?
Charlotte Square, £28 to park for 3
Oh,
hours.
that's a
Oh,
mistake.
it's mental, isn't it?
I was
Well-
like, do you know what? I wonder if I can get away with this. What time
Get
do
a
you think?
parking ticket.
I was thinking that.
Cheaper.
Well, what time were you there, though?
I was outside there for about 7:20. But the ticket didn't start till 8:30.
So why didn't you just book from 8:30, though?
I did. When you put it on,
Right.
because
And
I
you
was
spent
like,
three-
You spent
That's
28 pounds
for
on
3
parking.
hours. 3 hours.
Well, what could you get for 28 pounds?
Parking.
Parking.
Parking at Charlotte Square.
I could get at least about 3 pints of Peroni.
And that's how we
And a
made
hell
that.
of a good time.
So, Linda, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's an early rise for you, we know, but thank you. We
That's okay.
appreciate it. So I have this idea. I want to start my business. What do I do?
Okay. I would always recommend probably starting up as a sole trader initially. There's some startups, I would say maybe a limited company structure works, but generally if you're starting off small and growing it, then I would go down the sole trader route.
So what does sole trader mean for
So-
the guys that are out there that's just going to start? So very often I'm employed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got, for lack of a better word, I'm used to employees. So I'm used to getting my £3,000 a month. And then I'm used to paying my mortgage, my car.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
give some money to my wife, give some money to my children. And then I have some money left for me to go
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not
Now,
Nothing left.
okay.
Nada.
I need budgeting. We'll talk about budgeting later.
Yeah.
But now when I'm a sole trader, what does that actually mean for me?
Yeah, so basically you don't get your pay slip every month where your
What?
tax, national insurance and everything's already been paid. You will generate income and you'll have some expenses to offset against that.
Could my
And
mortgage be
you'll-
one of those expenses?
No.
What about fuel for my car?
Yes. If you're using your car for business purposes, then you can claim either your fuel costs on a mileage rate, so you can claim 45 pence per business mile, or you can claim a portion of all the running costs of your car. Generally, people do the 45 pence per business mile because it's easier. You don't have to keep all the collate all the information. So yeah, I advise my clients anything that you're spending that's related to what you're doing as your work, then you should be able to claim all of that expense or an element of that. There's some you've got a business and personal use, so it's just apportioning the
Okay.
costs appropriately.
So I've got the money coming in. That's my sales. That's all the money coming into my bank.
Yeah.
And then I've got some business expenses. Let's call it, I use my car. I might have an office. I buy product.
Yeah.
I sell product. And at the end, I have a profit. Where does national insurance contributions fit into that?
Yeah.
And all of those things.
Yep. So as a sole trader, you would start completing a tax return every year. So the tax year runs to 5th of April each year, and then you've got until the following January to complete and submit your tax return.
You have 9 months to save the money.
No, you save the money before the end of the tax year.
There you go.
Okay.
Actually, I would say your first top tip when you start up is to save the tax as you go rather than winging it, get to the end of the tax year, then get somebody to calculate what your tax is and then panic. So always set aside a percentage of your money each month.
So we're talking about, so some good advice is you're talking about pots of money. So if you bring in £100, take £20 and put that away for tax for in case.
Maybe a little bit more
Maybe.
now with the tax rates. And depending on, obviously the tax rates are banded, so depending on
So
what
that is
your
why it's
income
important
level's
to
gonna
engage
be.
with a good
Yeah,
accountant from
yeah.
day one so they can explain those tax rates
Yeah.
and the bands to you.
Yeah. So basically, once you get to the end of the tax year, again, we advise our clients to provide their information to us as quick as possible after the end of the tax year. So you've got as long as possible to know what that figure is going to be in January. So we would then look at calculating the income tax liability and also your national insurance liability. So that's two figures that are calculated, and then the client would just pay one figure to HMRC at the end of January.
What about VAT? How worried do I need to be of VAT, and how do I check?
So two things to think about. Are you making a VATable supply? So most things that you sell, make will be VATable, but there's certain areas that are exempt from VAT. So healthcare is a big one there, anything kind of healthcare related. The threshold for VAT is 90,000. So if your turnover is not going to reach that level, then you don't need to worry about VAT. If you think you're going to get to that point, again, it's just keeping an eye on what that looks like. There are options, again, certain cases where you can voluntarily register for VAT, and that can work if you've maybe got a lot of expenses that you're paying VAT on. It might actually work out in your favour to register for VAT. Depends what your ultimate sale is. If you can pass on that 20% VAT liability to your customers, your clients, then registering for VAT is sometimes quite a good way to recoup some of your input VAT, the VAT on expenses.
When people go VAT registered, there's a perception of that as well from the residential side to the commercial side. The commercial side see you, oh, you're obviously very successful, you're doing quite well, where the residential side, the domestic market, they're like,
20% more.
20%.
Yeah.
That's just more dead money.
Yeah.
So there is that
So it's
element.
making it, if you can make it work for you as your business, then I say it's not always a bad thing. It depends
also-
on the market you're in.
Because in the past, I've known people, they don't keep an eye on their accounts. So as a case of, excuse me, they wait till the very end. Excuse
And
me.
surprise.
I know, yeah. And then find that 6 months ago they went over the VAT
Yeah,
threshold.
yeah.
So that does mean then that you're VAT registered automatically once you go over that.
Yeah, you have to do it from that.
and you're then due the VAT on that, and you've not been charging it. So it can put you into some serious trouble.
Yeah.
You can go back to your clients though and beg for the VAT, but the chances of that are pretty slim.
Yeah, issue a VAT, you can retrospectively issue the VAT invoice. And again, that will be very sector dependent on. And ultimately, if you're selling to another business that's VAT registered, it's much easier. Whereas your end client, if they're suffering that 20%, then it's trickier.
I think 20% for everybody is like, if you've made the mistake, you're going to have to pay for it. So it is why it's important that you keep an eye, because if you come to me 6 months after the line and say, hey, I short charge you by 20%, I'm like, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah,
It's not a
as I
me
say,
problem.
unless you're amicable and you can claim that VAT back as an expense, you might.
How do you make? I know we've got loads of questions. But how do you make
money?
How do you make accounting say sexy? How do you make it so? Because most people in business are flying by the seat of their pants. Let's make no mistake about it. We are. We all are. We showcase the glossy mag that we've got our shit together, but a lot of us don't. And how do you intrigue people to understand the numbers? I mean, what's the passion in that? Know your numbers, know where you're going. Is there any stories that you can share, shed light on to people that will inspire them to know their numbers and take this by the horns, take the bull by the horns with this?
Yeah, I think the earlier you get a handle on your own numbers, then you're more invested in moving to the next stage, and you can actually. It's a bit of a reward, isn't it? If you can instantly, we put a lot of our clients or all our clients onto digital software now, so it's much easier nowadays to know how things are going without trying to scrabble about and pull together, add up numbers. So if you can, on a quarterly basis, have a wee look and say, actually, you've done really well this quarter. What's the plan for the next 3 months? And it just, I don't know, I think people like to see if their hard work's paying off. If you can actually get a wee bit of feedback on that, then it kind of boosts them to the next stage. There's different. Some clients are very kind of relaxed, and it's maybe just plodding along. I'm okay doing what I'm doing, and then you've got the entrepreneurs are a bit more ambitious, and they want to get to the next level.
How do you, when you see that, because you'll see a whole plethora of clients, and you'll see the ones that are driven, the entrepreneurs. Are they asking lots of questions like, what do I do here? How do we do this? How do we save money here? Not tax evasions, but tax avoidance. And then how do any new grant funding's coming through? Dare say that word. But people think that way. That's the gospel
you've got
truth.
two camps, haven't you? You've got those that are like that, and the others that
They're oblivious.
they'll get to the 9 months after the year end. Oh, actually, I should have asked about that, 6 months ago or 9 months ago or a year ago. But yeah, you need to keep things. You need to talk about what's happening now, not in the past, to allow people to move forward.
And keep an eye on numbers as well. It obviously lets you see that things are not working,
Yeah.
rather than 9 months
Yeah.
down the line you find you've got a massive hole there, and,
And people bury their head, don't know,
Yeah,
they
they
maybe
do,
see
yeah.
their bank balance is diminished, but there's maybe good reason for that.
Yeah.
And, so there can be a bit of a lag when you're starting up, that you've got a lot of expenditure initially, and it can take a bit of time to get that money in. But I would say if you're sending bills to your customers, your clients, keep on top of debt collection from day one. Don't be too nice to people, because that'll become a habit, and then why should you be the one that's taking the hit on that?
Yeah.
And if your customers get into that process, then it's they're going to pay when they expect to pay, rather than actually I'm going to leave it for 1 month, 2 months,
Yeah.
3 months, and then you're the one with the cash flow problem.
And that's where Zero and stuff, all the software that comes out is good, because you've got automatic reminders.
Yeah.
So even if you're not really on top of it or busy, then you know that something's going out if somebody
Yeah.
hasn't paid.
Yeah, the automation now is it's miles better than.
Yeah.
There's no paper and pen, crayons and paper and things like that now.
No more.
The odd one.
The odd one. There's my receipts. Thank you.
I think that's the thing that's coming to an end as well as we move into a digital age, is pen and paper.
Yeah.
Everybody expects your invoices to be emailed to you. When you go to retail stores now, they ask you for your email address. 2 reasons why. They're going to send you a receipt, but they also add you to your mailing list. So
Stalk you.
Yeah. So, I mean, Facebook's an interesting one, because Facebook knows 400,000 things about you they didn't even know about yourself. So
Data.
So and I will say this: it's your business, your numbers, your responsibility. It's not your accountant's responsibility. Your business, your numbers, your responsibility. And often I was gonna use a big word, but obviously we pawn that responsibility off onto our accountant. Well, my accountant should have told me. My accountant should have known. That's rubbish. It's your business, your responsibility. You need to understand your numbers.
Stops for you, yeah.
And that's just a given. But Linda, now I'm a good sole trader. Why would I consider going to a limited company? And what's the benefits in a limited company?
The main one is the name, limited liability. So as a limited company, you've got a bit more protection if there's any risk within your business.
So if you explain a little bit more protection between a sole trader and a limited
Yeah.
liability company. If I go and I take a bounce back loan in the name of my sole trader and in my limited company,
So
and there's a
yeah.
downturn in the economy and I can't afford, and I have to close it down, what happens?
As a sole trader, you as an individual are liable for that loan. So the bank could look towards the government, or could look towards your house or your own other assets that you own individually. Whereas within a limited company, it's the company that's liable for that. So if there's no assets within that company, no cash within that company, then they can't look beyond that to the individual. Unless in some situations, you may sign up for funding, loans, and personal guarantees could be asked for.
So personal
So
guarantees.
limited liability company doesn't always protect you. It's understanding when you're signing up for things that if a personal guarantee is asked for.
What does it
then-
mean? What does a personal guarantee mean?
Yeah. So again, if a limited company, if there was a debt sitting there that somebody came to collect, they could then go through the company to the individuals, the shareholders, beyond that, if there's a personal guarantee in place. And
What
that's
if,
when
there's
you're-
no money at the end of the day? There's no house, there's nothing. What happens then?
Well, they would individually, if it was a personal guarantee, they would individually bankrupt you, and if not, the debt just gets written off. If there's nothing there, then they can't get it.
So
And
would it be...
that's you see people are
Clever with it.
clever with that.
Yeah.
No, people bend the rules, and
Yeah.
but I mean, I think what people don't realize is if you go down that limited company route, and you accumulate a lot of debt, and you all of a sudden fold that company in, whoever does insolvency has got a duty of care to report if you as a director traded negligently.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to have the title director, but nobody really understands what that means. And as a director, you've got a responsibility, and it's maybe big word again, fiduciary duty. And all that means is you've got a duty of care towards your business to make sure that you do things correctly. Prime example, when bounce back loans were being handed out left, right, and center, the criteria is 25% of your revenue. So if you're only doing 100 grand, you can only get 25. But there's no checks and balances in play. So there's lots of guys doing 100K that took 50 grand loans.
The
100 grand loans.
easiest money to get.
Easiest money to get, and then you go spend it on a flat, maybe a holiday, and then you fold your business, and
Camper
that's
vans. There was lots of camper vans.
so things like that becomes negligent trading, and then as a director you can't do that. You
Yeah.
just can't do that. So limited companies have got some responsibility, so it's got some protection if you
Yeah.
take out some loans.
Yeah.
You want
And
to
I think it is when you get to a certain stage, you want to protect your family and your
Yeah.
own personal assets. So a limited company is definitely the good route. There's more options to plan for tax in a limited company as well. As a sole trader, everything that you earn is taxable
At the
at that
tax
point.
bands, yeah.
Whereas as a limited company, the company will pay corporation tax. But as an individual, you're only taxed if you take that money out of the company.
now that
Um,
this is a really important question just for everybody. You can't just keep taking money out of your business, and this is why you need
It's
to
not
understand
free.
your numbers. It's not free, because what happens if I've taken out more money out of my business than my business can afford?
So you would have what's called then an overdrawn director's loan. So the company has loaned you money.
Yeah, so that means you owe the money to the company.
Yeah.
But that's okay because it's my company.
It's your company.
So I can loan it money.
Yeah, you can, but you have to pay that money back to the
No,
company.
but it's my company. so this is the argument, but it's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
company, and my company is elected to make a loan to me. So HMRC looks at that benefit type thing, benefit in kind.
Yeah, so they look to, if it's not repaid to the company within 9 months of the company year end, then there's tax payable on that director's loan account. So the tax is payable. If you then paid the money back in after that point, you can claim the tax back. So it's not a sunk tax. It's you can get that money
You
back.
can't get it back. But it's to
Um,
stop you from using
Yeah,
your business as a
yeah.
vehicle.
Alternatively, if there's enough profits within the company, that could be classed as dividends to the individual, and they would then pay individual dividend tax on that. But that's where the planning has to come in as to how much profit the company is going to earn, how much as an individual shareholder within that do you want or need to take out during the year, and then what's the most efficient way to take that money out of the company. And that's where it's good to get advice from your accountant as to when you take that money out, spanning individual tax years, just to minimise the tax as far as possible.
So here's one for you, right? I know an accountant's really important for a business starting out. A good accountant. But when we're going down this hole again.
Here we go.
Here we go.
You've not met many,
I've just
have you?
lined up. I've not met many good accountants. Obviously, we've chatted long and hard about it all, and you came across really well. And when I went to that meeting that Dains held, I could see how much involvement's involved in accountancy, just the different categories,
Yeah.
and wherever you are on your business journey,
Yeah.
whether you turn over 100 grand to 100 million, you're going to be faced with different things, and you need a good accountant that's got, they've got people in position that can tackle these kind of things.
Yeah.
So that was really, it was an eye opener for me, to be
And
fair.
things change all the time. If the tax rules change, companies' house rules change. So you might start off thinking, oh, this is how much tax I'm going to pay. But, something else comes in, or when you're selling your business, tax rules change on that as well. So it's nothing stays the same. It's just
So what is a good accountant? There you go. That was my long-winded
Wow,
vision.
that was a
What
long
is a
one.
good accountant?
I think it's somebody that you trust, somebody you can go to for advice, and that works with you through your business journey. So I like you meet people at the beginning, and then you can kind of see them get into, they've achieved their goals, they've sold their business, or they've diversified through what they're doing, and it's just having regular catch-ups with your clients.
So would you suggest that the client should be phoning you, or you should be phoning them?
We should be phoning them.
Brilliant answer.
And when should you be phoning them?
Again, depends. Some people don't want you to phone them all the time.
Oh no, it's accountant. Oh no, it's
They're looking for more
accountant.
money.
There must be a problem. Whereas others, I think, especially the initial kind of quarterly check-ins, we mentioned digital software. There's those Xero. We partner with Xero. There's other softwares out there that all do pretty much the same thing, but it's live data, so we can get into that. Not the old days when you had to get a backup and restore it. It's all visible. So just a quick catch up on, not even so much on the figures. A quick look at the figures and actually what's going on. What's your problems? Is there anything we can help with?
That's good. That's really
So
good.
again, as you're growing, a lot of clients maybe initially they don't want to spend a lot of money with their accountant, so that I'll do my bookkeeping myself, I'll do my payroll myself. Over time, actually, there you go. Pass that on.
Yeah.
You focus on what you're good at within your business and get rid of all the things that take your time. And they've got a risk. Like payroll's your biggest risk. If you get that wrong for your staff, then it's just a headache.
But
Yeah.
even bookkeeping in an age where we've got so much automation,
Yeah.
okay, and zero is great. But unless you understand the difference between a debit and a credit and how it affects a profit and loss in a balance sheet and the difference between an asset and liability, it could quickly
Money
create a
in,
lot of
money out.
problems.
So
Yeah.
that's
So-
where zero's good. It doesn't have as much
So
accounting speak.
So it doesn't have but you still need to understand if you're allocating money correctly, incorrectly, because our accountant is going to spend much more time fixing your
Yeah.
mistakes than
And
if they
that's
just
why
actually did it.
initially get in early. Actually, we need to change X, Y, and Z, and then you've got better information and show your client. Actually, if you dip into that, you can see how much you've spent on. I don't know.
It's like having a night out and looking at your card statements. How much?
How did that
Yeah, but for a
happen?
billionaire
It's
like
amazing what
yourself,
happened.
that's not a problem.
Amazing that I have a couple of Chateauneuf de Paps, and then before you know it, I'll buy the next round. Where are we? All bar one.
And then all of a sudden it's £100
It's fine
round.
when you're a wee bit, you're like, I'm not doing that again. A few weeks down the line, you're at it again. But you use a lot of systems, or you I mean, with the letting agency side of things, and then obviously you've got the inventory, the construction. How important is systems to you that help with your accounts?
That's essential. Like the systems we use for a daily basis is one thing, because that's just helping you run the business efficiently. But your accounts side of things, like I used to, like an accounts I had, it was quite a big firm actually, but it was literally, there's my stuff and there's your bill.
And it's a surprise.
Aye,
back.
and it's like there's no education, there's no discussion, and I actually had 3 meetings with them, and came out none the wiser. Like I was getting back in the car going, like I'm trying to educate myself on
Yeah.
accounts and
And
tax.
I think that's like I want my clients to understand their accounts, and that's just finding a way to try and explain it to them that's not debits, credits, assets, liability. It's actually this is what this means, and do you understand it? Tell me
Yeah.
if you don't, because
Yeah,
What's the most tax efficient way to go forward?
I think people become scared because when they're in business, they're supposed to know this. There's this common fallacy: you can't know everything.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, and this is no disrespect, but what does an accountant do? It takes what comes into because your bank account is your source of truth. That's a single source of truth. So it takes what comes into your bank and what goes out of the bank, and it just organizes it in a nice way and shows you what your tax bill is. Yeah.
yeah, it's the other things that go around.
But
that,
those are the things. It's the things that you don't see. That's the things that is.
Yeah.
But
and I
again,
don't know everything, and that's why being part of Dains, you've got a much wider network of people that you can call on for specialists. We've got somebody wanting to sell or grow or buy a business, then we've got a good corporate finance team now that we dabbled in that before, but now you've got the experts that know that inside out.
So here's one for you then. Why would a successful business, just let's say a business that's turning over 500 or 5 million, what is the common reasons that they leave their accountants to come to somebody like Dains?
Probably they don't hear from their accountant, or it is very much their accounts are filed a day or a week before the filing deadline. It's very kind of last minute. Is
Right.
usually what we find, or surprise tax bills. That's generally the biggest reason why people would move accountant.
So see when someone's getting a surprise tax bill, is that alarm bells for you guys knowing, well, this guy needs to be checked in every quarter, even if he doesn't like it or she doesn't like it, because we don't want to be that other person that they leave.
Yeah.
So we'll harness
Because
that.
it is hard. If you can't get somebody to engage and give you the information that
Yeah.
they need,
Yeah.
then they can turn around, well, actually, you've not told me what that is. I said, well, we can't because you've not given us the information to do so.
it then
But
becomes a
it's
blame game, though.
taking
doesn't
that
it?
ownership.
Yeah, it's ownership because a lot of accountants and a lot of clients, it's 50-50 because there's 9 months before you have to submit. So your year end is the end of May, okay, and then you only give your accountants the things in October. You've lost 4 or 5 months, 6
Yeah.
months there.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yeah.
So the quicker you can get those numbers,
so
the quicker
every
you can
year
prepare.
end that passes for us, for the limited companies, they get a checklist, a message,
Right.
the week after to say,
What if-
the year end's passed.
What if they ignore it?
Well, we chase them. We do chase, and if they ignore it to a point, then
so
we
how
don't. We'll let them get a late filing penalty.
How often do you change? So that's just the question. So how much of it is it your responsibility? Because I said before, your business, your numbers, your responsibility.
Yeah.
Oh, why do you expect your accountant to chase? Because if you're chasing your clients,
Human nature. Like I acknowledge that it's not everybody's priority to deal with that, and I'm probably as bad with my own stuff that you don't do it as quick as you should.
Linda's like, I'll just wait
I'll
for
submit
it.
my tax return in January. It's fine. But yeah, we do chase because life gets in the way of lots of things, and you get to know your clients. You know the clients that'll have their things, the week after the year end, but the ones that you'll be scrabbling about trying to deal with at the last minute. We don't have that many that are like that now, and I think that's where the digital records have made a big difference. There's no reason why you need to wait to get that information in.
No.
You find as well, like you'll have a cycle of just a manic period trying to push all this stuff through. And as a business owner, I'm aware of that manic side, and I'm trying to get everything done a bit earlier anyway. So you're not part of that.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of partnerships within Condies to Dains on the GP partnership side. So they're all
So just explain
now
the partnership to
partnership.
everybody.
So similar to a sole trader, but you've got friends. So there's more than one person in business together.
So the friends decide, this is a good idea. We're going to be business
And
partners.
it tends to be certain sectors that operate as a partnership. So say GP partners, dental practices are one that traditionally is a partnership model. Can be in other businesses, but it's not that common in other businesses. It tends to be more sole trader or limited company.
What is better, partnership or limited liability company?
Again, depends on what your liability is. So limited liability partnership, from a tax point of view, is exactly the same as a traditional partnership. You're taxed as an individual income tax basis. So there's no difference at all on the tax side of things, but you have got limited liability. So again, if you've got any funding within the business, then that might be a reason that you do. Or for premises, sometimes if you've got a big lease on a building, you might want to limit your liability, and that tends to be the kind of main areas if you've got debt or premises that you might have at risk. Limited liability partnership accounts are horrible to read, like they're awful. So we tend to almost prepare this is what the account should look like, but this is your statutory accounts that go into Companies House. The other thing with that is your accounts are on Companies House, so on public record. So if you're a limited company or a limited liability partnership, anybody can go in and have a look at your accounts.
It's great being nosy. I love it.
So I will say, this is micro accounts though. Hey, they only publish a balance sheet.
Yeah, at the moment, a balance sheet. So
But there is talk.
There is talk of profit and loss information being available, which that does scare some clients. I don't know. I think I'm always like, well, why are you scared of people knowing what your
Do you know what
business
it is?
is doing?
It's back down to the bravado.
Yeah.
Well,
The ego.
do you want people to know what your business does? Do you think that it's fair that they should know what your business do? It's a whole different discussion.
It is, and it depends on the
But-
business, doesn't it? If you're
So-
a customer and you're looking, well, actually, they're not doing very well, but you won't be able to see a true reflection
But
because you
and
won't
most
see
people-
the detail of what's in those accounts.
But then most people are stupid.
Here we go. Let me just
yourself
issue
in
a
that
blanket
They
apology
can look
right
at that.
now.
No, but they are.
Some people are.
Some people, a lot of people are stupid when it comes to this side of things.
Uneducated is what you mean.
No, stupid. And I want to tell you the difference between uneducated and stupid,
Here we go. This is going to be good.
right? So, uneducated, whereby they need to learn it, but stupid people don't want to learn it, and they want to be seen that they know it all. That's stupid. And they just bury themselves in a big hole. So what I mean by that, if they give you access to see your P&L, they'll make a judgment on your business, but that's not proper entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs won't really look at that as such. They'll look at the bigger picture of it because they know business is difficult. They know it goes up and down. But then they'll look at your assets, your liabilities, and they'll look at a whole plethora of things. Then they'll look at the inner culture of the business, phone up, look online, look at stories about your business, where stupid people just look and go, oh, they're rubbish.
Yeah, make that.
So they're because they're uneducated and they don't want to know all the information about it. But that's the risk that you take because there's a lot of people in business that you'll work B2B with that are stupid.
Yeah.
That am I right?
No, absolutely.
I am right. I am right.
Maybe those are the people you don't want to work with, isn't it?
But the problem is there's a lot
you
of people...
sometimes have to.
You have to. Because there's a lot of people out there. Because that bravado and ego... I mean, I'm on... I want to educate myself more on the numbers. That's why I ask all of these pressing questions. But there's a lot of people just want to bury their head in the sand. And then one or... sometimes when you meet them at networking or at parties, they show off and they think they know everything. But really, they're just stupid.
It's a little bit of information can sometimes be dangerous.
You're absolutely right. Little information is dangerous. If you don't understand, and I'm going to go back to this, your business, your numbers, your responsibility. The difference between an exceptional entrepreneur and a mediocre one is this. An exceptional entrepreneur would be able to tell you what his average client value is, how many jobs he's done, okay?
What his pipeline is.
So he would be able to give you snippets of information. And even if you try and tie it together, you won't get to the right number. So it's about understanding your numbers. Where's your growth coming from? Is it coming from price? So are you increasing your prices? Are you decreasing your prices? Is it coming from volume? Are you serving more clients? Are you serving less clients? That's an education. Very few people get that education. And you're right. And that's where good entrepreneurs set out because they understand a price effect and a volume effect and how that affects your growth. So it is important that you get to grips with your numbers. And it's important that your accountant is good at that because garbage in, garbage out. So Xero is a very good accounting platform. But it's maybe not such a good management system platform. And that's why you need a separate system for it. To give you good quality management information.
There's lots of apps now that you can add into Xero, which again, depending on the business sector, can be brilliant because it can front load your sales system and all link back into Xero. And they're changing all the time as well. So we've got like digital leads in our office. That's one, they're on top of what's come in, what's the best ones. Because there's so many that you're a bit, where do you start with that? So it's picking. Obviously, don't go with loads of different apps. Just pick a couple that are suitable to your business, and work with those. There's a lot of time saving in all these things.
And what about networking? Networking.
So I met you.
I know. And how lucky you are. But how important is networking
for accountants?
Dains Accountants.
Yeah, it's I'd say most of my new client work comes from my existing clients, and I always think that's the best way to get new clients. You've got a happy client that tells somebody else about you, and I'd much rather get that than just a cold lead.
Because a cold lead is just shopping. It's shopping for price.
And we get a lot of maybe like website inquiries, asking for a quote. And again, you would much rather come in and see us and we'll chat to you rather than sending you a document. There is a kind of tender process in some business sectors. But if you're looking at 4 firms that have got similar things written on a bit of paper, you don't really... How do you differentiate on that? You need to meet the people.
You need to meet them.
I suppose you need to feel comfortable with your accountant because you at some point in time you're going to have to tell them about your dirty little secrets.
Yeah.
And it's that fear that they're going to report you to HMRC. Yeah. So put it out there. Yeah. So it's that fear that and then I think it's also, I suppose, it's a fear of judgment. What do they think about me? Yeah. I'm supposed to be
we've
running
got a responsibility, having just done my anti-money laundering training. We have to.
Whoa! Let's not get so quick on this.
We have to. If there is anything,
no. If there's anything untoward, if all of a sudden
we've got a responsibility.
Yeah, everybody. I think everybody's got to be accountable for their own actions, and we don't like to be.
Yeah.
Okay, but sometimes we make rules for the sake of making rules. And I'll tell you a story. As when I first moved here, I transferred money from my South African account to here, and then they stopped the transfer, and they called me in and they wanted to know where all this money comes from.
Yeah.
But the problem the guy made is he said, but this only applies for transfers over 10 grand. You shouldn't tell me that, because when my subsequent transfers were below that, because 10 grand is the money laundering threshold that the bank needs to report you on. So that's why I then transferred less than 10 grand. Okay, but I understand why the rule is there, but there's also loopholes around it. So what's the point of the rule then? You either check everything, or you check nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opportunists. There's all.
Whoa, let's not be so quick to call me an opportunist.
There's rules there, but there's always someone else that's finding another way, navigating its way around it. Being like water. I always love that.
Oh,
quote.
yeah. So you
Find your way around it.
I just think that when there's rules, the rules need to make sense. Okay, so rules. So money laundering I get, but why is it only 10 grand? Why is it only 5 grand?
Yeah.
What's the logic behind that?
It's because the politicians need to transfer that money. You know, these political parties need some money.
Ka-ching. Okay.
I know. So the networking, that's important to.
I think
Dains.
as well for us, it's other intermediaries are good contacts for us. So network with other lawyers, bankers, finance, kind of brokers. Because again, if you've got a good relationship in those areas, then you've got mutual clients that, you know, or I've got somebody needs legal advice, then I've got 2-3 people that I'll refer to depending on what kind of thing it is. Like if it's an employment issue, then I know who to go to. So I'd say that's probably more where I would network rather than actually trying to
General network
just
to
get
get
clients.
business.
Yeah.
It's
You've
more
just hit the
strategic.
nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Exactly what it's all about.
Yeah.
Relationship.
And it's picking. Like I've been doing this a long time, and I think you've get demoralised by some networking events that, yes, you have to question what you're getting out of that.
100%.
Your time's valuable, so it's finding the right things to do with your time.
But when you build that connection with someone, like we obviously met at the networking event, and you heard me being who I am to certain people.
I'm still here.
And you're still here. But there's nicety about you, and there was an honesty about you as well. And and you were authentic, where I could see some of it. I couldn't see the authentic them. It's not to say that they're bad people or anything.
Yeah.
It's just I didn't get that vibe. And then here we are, months later. So there's a relationship and who you like, who you dislike, who you're getting on with, and that's why you're here as well, because you obviously got a good feeling as well.
And it is, like I know, like different colleagues, they'll work with different lawyers or different, because it's just your personality and where that, and even clients. We've, if we get new clients in, and actually, I think you'd be better working with that person because I think you're more suited and the more experience in that area. You just it's. And now I'm sad to say, but you know, a lot of the younger people coming in, will want a younger person looking after them. You know, it's all kind of
it becomes relatable.
They don't want to like a mother hen or a dad
you're
looking over them when you should be doing that.
Yeah, you are like my mum, so it's like, you know, it's.
But it's good that you're pointing that out as well, because it's just human nature, personalities, and that's one of the reasons when you have a good accountant, you need to get on well with them, and it's nice so they know everything about you, your family life, what you're looking to do, you're going on holiday, so they can get a picture of how they can best serve you going forward.
Yeah.
I think that's
what's
a really
important
poignant
to
one.
people, isn't it?
It's also if things are not going well, you want to be comfortable that you can go to your accountant and actually have the conversations and see where the help and not
leave it, because that's the worst thing. Like, deal with it now rather than just.
So why don't people deal with it?
I think we've talked about it before. It's just a bit of like you don't want to be judged. You know, you've got it wrong or
So
things are not
fear.
working. Yeah, there's a bit of that. But you do just generally people bury their head. Whereas we've talked about it a lot. I think it's just human nature. It's that fear of failure. You're admitting that you've done something that's not worked.
The same with illness, isn't it? Why people don't go and see about things that are wrong with them because they don't really want to know the
What are we talking
answer.
about here? I just want to check.
Or just go,
I've got a really sore toe. Nope, I'll be fine. I'm not going to those doctors.
There's a bit of fear. There's fear in it. There's fear.
I mean, I said to you earlier on that the thing that scares us the most is change. We all go, oh, no, I love change. Not so much, because when you go to a doctor, you're scared. He might say, oh, you need to change your diet. You can't drink as many Cokes as you like to. You're like, oh, you can't eat as much chocolate as you like to. You're like, what the hell does this guy know anyway?
He doesn't know you.
He doesn't know any of those things. But
he's just sitting there on the computer. That sounds about right. Yep, I'll tell him that.
that is an interesting thing. It's when you compare health. It's a whole different story. But we'll get into it. Healthcare, NHS, private medical. I'm just going to tell you now, is a thing that is coming, like it is in Africa, like it is in the States. It is coming, whether you like it or not. You'll still have the NHS, but there'll be a differentiator between government-supplied healthcare and private healthcare. You will see it coming.
It's what's happened in dentistry, isn't it?
Absolutely. You're going to see it start coming more. Which, is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. Jury's still out.
Well, we're not going to go down that whole rabbit hole. But once you have a business there like the NHS, and when you have it getting battered and bruised like any business, it's going to break.
Yeah.
And if there's no beacon of hope or a leader that's in there that's trying to steer you need multiple leaders in the NHS to try and steer it to the right direction. But I don't know what the vision is for them, because you can already see how it's been fractionalised, it's been broken up.
Yeah. It's too big, isn't it? It's too big a problem to solve.
Massive.
I don't know.
But that is the risk that you run in any business. As it starts off small, it's maybe just you, and then you put employee number 1, most important hire, and employee 2, 3, 4, and before you know it, you've got 100 people.
Yeah.
And something's got to give, okay? It doesn't have to, but something will give.
So what normally happens when something's that big, right? When something's that big, just in my wee head, this is how I figure. When it's that big and it's too hard to change, and we could go, you can look at it politically, and you can look at the NHS as well, the politics. What you then have to do is create a mass havoc to break it. Like a bomb or anything it may be. I'm telling you.
All right.
No, I'm telling you.
You mean we press a reset
Metaphorical.
button? Yeah, there we go. We press the reset button.
But that's what will happen.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole back to the start. It's now building the foundation again. And the people that have got an alternative motive, they know that's what will happen. And then they'll have their ducks lined up to build a new foundation. So, because I wouldn't say you can't, but it's extremely difficult to fix something that huge
I mean, you
when
can't
it's
stop
involving
it, can
people.
you? It's not like some businesses could halt, let's stop production, we'll put a
and
new
just start
production
again.
system
Yeah.
in.
A new production line in,
You
we'll do
can't
that.
stop
You
healthcare.
think the change from Condies to Dains, that's been quite a process and quite difficult.
Yeah.
And that's a team of, how many teams is it now?
It's 60.
So a team
Yeah,
of 60.
in our office, yeah.
And you can see all the struggles that's happened there, and you're getting there. If I've got my struggle with 22 staff, you got your struggles, and your business as well. But then you look at it, 1,000 people.
I know.
How do you manage 1,000 people? And that's just one small department.
I think the key is communication, isn't it? And just making sure that that's laid out from the very beginning. And that's when we did the Condies to Dains, it's making sure you've got the team on board from the beginning, explaining the reasons for it, what the benefits to the guys will be. And it's all positive changes that they've seen, which is
good.
And so Dains is now a preferred partner of the Business Babble, so we'll be hearing from on more episodes, which I'm looking forward to.
Exactly.
All the exciting accounting topics we can talk about.
Look at that.
By the way, I'm believing that accountancy is sexy.
Did.
He's lying. He's lying.
Do you know what? It's so important. It's so important.
It's vital.
Nobody says it's sexy. It's just you
It's
need to have
aye.
it needs to work and it needs to be part of your business as opposed to that
And that
kind
is it.
of.
That's the key.
the
It's part of your
guts.
Well, do you
business.
think of people when they get bigger and bigger in business, they're in the millions, hundreds of millions, the accountant's always in the boardroom with them.
Yeah, and then they've got the audit. They've got the
Yeah.
auditors coming in.
Yes.
It's a
So
different.
they're just a part of the team.
Yeah.
So eventually, when you get to that size, you will have your own accountant in-house. You'll have your own
Yeah.
accountancy function in-house.
Yeah,
and then
team, yeah, potentially.
team, and then outside of that, you will have your accountant sitting with your audit team coming in to check if anybody's embezzling money, which they never ever found. I mean, that's always amazing to me. They never find it, and then years later, KPMG gets stuffed with a fine for something that happened 5 years ago. And I'm like, why did you not find
it's
it?
a bit of a flawed process.
Yeah. So it's just interesting as businesses evolve, how important that accounting and that finance function really is, and that's why you do want to understand it. You don't need to be an expert on Section 455 tax. Okay,
No.
you just need to understand that if the business is going to owe you money, you're going to pay tax. That's all you need to understand, and that's about educating yourself about your business, and that's where accounting becomes invaluable.
It's an understanding where you can minimise that tax and just not fall foul of any problems.
So if somebody needs to get in touch with you, they want to have a chat, what's the best way to get on?
Either through our website or
And your website is?
it's dains.com.
Spell Dains for us. Just
Dains.
And that's also for the silly people. Na.
Or if you're in the old mode and Google Condies, you'll still find Dains.
There you go.
Or pop into the office or give us a phone.
Do you have good coffee at the office?
It's not good coffee.
You
That's
need
part
to-
of my
you need
mission.
to
Get the coffee changed.
Yeah, I'm just
We've
going to
got-
say you need to make sure
Yeah,
your
we've
coffee
got
is
good
good.
biscuits, but the coffee.
Do you have any, do you have
coffee's
any
in.
sweeties in a jar?
We've got mints.
Man, see,
Yeah.
that's good, by the way, because there's nothing worse when you're talking to a client with stinking breath.
It's a prerequisite when you come in. Have a mint.
That's probably not.
Have you brushed your teeth? Or you wash your mouth out with the toilet water?
That's probably not why they have the mints. But thank you for putting it out there.
Might just take that approach from now on.
This is your world.
Shape it.
Or someone else will.